Here's Joe here back to the video. Today's video is what is Zoey and Courtney plot seasons. So let's begin. Courtney will be in Revenge Island, and Zoey is actually going to be in On the Killer Bass. So Zoey would jump, and I will explain who jumps. So the only person that does is DJ and Beth. Katie and Izzy swap teams, but everyone else jumps. Now, the reason the Killer Bass would lose in the original is because Katie threw. So I think the Killer Bass would still lose the challenge, because Zoey wouldn't affect the building. But Zeke still says his comments, so he gets voted off. Episode 3 is the big sleep challenge. Zoey would be okay in this challenge, and I feel like she would be friends with Tyler and Harold. But she wouldn't be okay with Duncan fully. I think she would be friends with Duncan, and she'd be friends with Katie and Sadie, because Zoey likes glitter and stuff, and she is mature to be a girly girl. And Eva, Heather still satisfies that he is MP player, and Beth and Lindsay are still in the alliance. They both Eva like normal. Episode 4 is the episode where Dodgeball. So Duncan says, wake me up, it's the last thing you'll do. Noah refuses / doesn't compete. Now, the big reason the Killer Bass won this challenge in the original was because of Courtney. But now that Courtney's not here, I don't think Duncan gets woken up, so the Killer Bass do lose the challenge. And I think Zoey votes for Duncan, Tyler votes for Duncan, Bridget votes for Duncan, Harold, Katie and Sadie also vote for Duncan because he didn't compete in this challenge. They vote him off. I know he was very good in the last challenge, but I mean, he voted in the exact same episode, so I don't think that's a significant enough reason to believe that Duncan doesn't get voted off. Joe's always friends with Duncan, but he just didn't compete in the challenge, so he would get voted off. Episode 5, the talent show. So DJ, Jeff, and Bridget will now compete in this challenge. Tyler, Sadie, and Katie would be like, Harold would be like a friend group. Justin, Trent, and Heather. Bridget would throw up everyone. DJ would do bad. Jeff breaks his skateboard. Harold still wins the challenge, and everyone votes Justin like the original. Actually, Noah's here. So what does this mean? And I do think Noah would vote for Heather. Noah convinces Cody to vote for Heather because he liked to do a vote for Trent. So I feel like he would vote for Heather here, so Heather gets eliminated because Noah's an extra vote. There's no reason for Heather not to go home. Episode 6 is the Sucky Outdoors. Justin replaces Heather as the leader of this 3-person alliance. Noah's going to see Justin as a threat. Tyler still likes Lindsay's because they're on the opposite team. And Zoey and Harold get on pretty well. And Duncan's not there to tell horror stories. Katie and Sadie still get lost. The Team Golfers win the challenge, and they vote for Katie. Episode 7, Phobia Factor. So Noah and Justin are the only people not in the original. So who passes and fails? Trent. So let's start with Lindsay passes by Chocolate and Sadie. Beth is both passes. Izzy and Owen pass flying. Trent passes the mimes. Shauna fails the spiders. Okay. So Cody fails the time bomb. Glenn passes being buried in the ground. Justin look ugly. He would fail. And then Noah would be dolls, because I think it would kind of be pretty cool that his fear would be dolls. I've always said this before, but I think Noah wouldn't pass. Tyler, so DJ is a snake. I think someone like Zoey could just talk to him, so he'd pass. Bridget, being outdoors 6 hours, fails. Jeff fails the rain cloud. Harold fails the ninjas, and Tyler fails the chickens. So Zoey would be the swing vote. So they have 2. So there are 6. And even if Zoey did her fear, Chris would have to triple or quadruple the points just so they can keep up. And Zoey's fear was... We never got to see Zoey's fear because she got a 3 point in All Stars. So Zoey would be being on her own. Loneliness. And I feel like Zoey would be able to pass it. And I think everyone gangs up on Tyler again because Tyler, Harold, Sadie, and Tyler, they're a four-person alliance between these three who failed. Tyler, Harold, Jeff, and Bridget. They gang up on Tyler, which makes more sense this time, but Zoey wouldn't make fun of him. But they vote him off for slightly different reasons. It's because his relationship with Lindsay's quite threatening, rather than, making no sense. Episode 8, Up the Creek, DJ, Jeff, Sadie, Bridget and Zoey, Harold and Sadie. I think Justin would get Lindsay to go Trent, Gwen and Cody. Izzy, Justin and Beth would use Noah and Owen. Noah is going to be annoyed at Justin in this episode for using his looks, manipulating the game. Harold stacks A burns the yours. Izzy gives him the idea, and so he still gets chased down with the CRMP. Episode 9, Paintball Deer Hunter. Cody would not get mauled by a bear because Heather's not here. So the Deers and Hunters, Shona, Noah, and Justin are deer. Zoey and Sadie are deer. Harold would also be a deer. I think DJ wins the challenge by himself like he does in the original, and Justin would do so pathetic in the challenge as into where they would vote him off because he surrendered and didn't actually want his body to be heard. Episode 10, Cooking Challenge. DJ and Zoey would get on very close in this episode. They would be very close. Jeff and DJ wouldn't mess with Harold because that was Duncan's original idea. Will be the head chef. I think Owen still eats the ribs. Beth still takes the tiki statue. She reveals it without Heather being around because she misses Justin. She wants to show the statue. She gets voted off. Episode 11, Who You Can Trust. So, DJ and Jeff, Trent and Gwen and Lashana, Trent and Lindsay, Harold and Zoey, Bridget and Jeff, actually no, Harold, DJ. Then we have Blanche, Cody, Noah, Zoey, Sadie, Blanche Pieces, Harold and Bridget, Owen, Trent and Shauna. And because DJ would still use his bunny, Duncan's not there this time for DJ to get distracted out of his mask. So I do think the Killer Bass would win this challenge, sending the Gophers to elimination. Noah and Owen are very close, and I think because Cody towards Trent, these four would vote for Lindsay. I'm trying to see Lindsay's manipulate, so she votes for Noah. Episode 12, Basic Training. I think Zoey and Sadie would maybe have hotels, they tag out. So we can get to the final round where it's usually Jeff, Bridget, Gwen. So Gwen still wins the challenge. Zoey is Harold and Sadie, so they vote for Bridget. Now DJ likes Zoey, so I feel like he would be convinced to vote for Bridget. Episode 13, Extreme Torture. So Harold, you can skip to the next one, usually Harold's doing the driving. So Harold's not there to crash into a rock this time, so there's no reason for him to lose. And these four go for Owen because he's the most popular candidate and the biggest threat going forward. So 14's non-elimination. And we are at the merge. So, posters in the back. Alright. Episode 15, LaShawn wins Uni and everyone looks at Eva. I think it's very first place in this. Episode 16 is episode Heather kisses Trent. That would not happen here. And DJ and Zoey are a couple. Jeff misses Bridget, so he wants to get revenge on Zoey, I guess. is cool with them, but I think he's upset that Bridget's gone. Trent and Gwen are a couple. I feel like Sean and Harold would get together because the love letters he wouldn't reveal them yet, so I feel like they're just very close. So we have two couples in the game. So Lashana would make a girls' alliance to counter these two couples. And Zoey and DJ are quite close, so I feel like Harold and Sadie are friends with Zoey, but realise that Zoey would probably choose DJ in the end. So I feel like what would happen is, in episode 16, Harold wins immunity because he's closest to the villain. And I think the girls' alliance target DJ. Jeff turns to DJ for the one them off. Harold wouldn't vote DJ because he's kind of friends with him now. And I think Cody could be convinced to vote for DJ because he won't be convinced of Zoey. So I do think DJ gets eliminated. Episode 17 is highly sneaky. Zoe's pretty sad that her friend DJ got eliminated. Harold and Sadie would comfort her. Lashana realizes that Zoey by herself would see this as an opportunity to add her to the Girls' Alliance, which she accepts. Jeff replaces Duncan, realizing they're being outnumbered, so he makes a Guys' Alliance to counter. So basically, in Highly Sneaky, I think the winner of the challenge will be Harold. Lashana wins the challenge, and no one calls her out on the roof. So I feel like Lashana would get these 5 girls to love Trent, and the guys love Izzy. Now Gwen would also go with this vote. So in a tiebreaker between Izzy and Trent, I think Trent would lose the tiebreaker. Episode 18, the bike race. And I think what would happen is Jeff gets the bolts, Gwen wipes out, Izzy and Lashana are off into her episode, Sadie wipes out and anyone else qualifies for the second round. So Lindsay could definitely cross the finish line without Heather manipulating her and tricking her. There's no reason for her not to make it. Zoey would be pretty good at this as well. I think Zoey would probably make it. Between Cody and Harold, I think Harold would make it before Cody due to the unfair ruling. Cody gets eliminated after this challenge. Episode 19, Oakland Screamer. There's nobody that would perform badly as DJ did, so basically Gwen wins the challenge still. And Sadie gets the worst death. Episode 20, Conda Gone Wild. So Lashana would talk. The girls would talk and realise that Lashana is quite a threat because she's won most challenges. So I feel like what would happen is Gwen wins the challenge, and between Gwen and Izzy, I think they do go for Izzy for the like they do in the original. Episode 21 is Wakanda Gone Wild, so it's Gwen and Jeff, Lindsay and Lashana, Harold and Zoey. So the first part is Lashana and Lindsay. First round, Gwen and Jeff. Remember the relation order, I think it's Harold and Zoey, so no one wins being E. And they think it's a popularity contest at this point, so they vote for Jeff. Episode 22 is still Lashana. Episode 23, non-elimination. 4 season trust with Zoey and Gwen versus Lindsay and Harold. So Gwen and Zoey are friends, but I do feel like Gwen and Zoey would. I do feel like Lindsay and Harold would probably get lost. I think Gwen and Zoey win the challenge. So between Lindsay and Harold, I think Harold gets eliminated because Chef would like Lindsay more. Episode 25, the Death and Zoey and what it is would have gotten, but they would not be around Owen this time. And I think Lindsay would not get her shirt off. So Gwen and Zoey are in the final 2. It's pretty even. Most people will support Zoey, I think. She's more likable. And in this timeline, Zoey or Gwen would give up the prize money because they'd be more aware of what Chris would do with it. So Total Drama simply ends right there and then, and we can go straight on to Revenge of the Island. Courtney's introduction is the same as Revenge of the Island, and of course, Courtney would get along with Joe and Brooke pretty well because she would value them as strong players. Mike saves her. But there's no reason for Stacey not to work off. That's normal. Again, stop for 15 seconds. I think Mag can only just do better in this challenge. And considering they already win the division, there's no reason for Scott not to be able to go to. Episode 6, Ice Ice Baby. B would still use his mirror strategy. Mike and Cameron would be pretty close. I now think Mike would like Amaria because Zoe's not here, and Mike and Amaria would like each other. And this is where Mike turns into Vito, and I think Amaria would particularly like Vito, even more so without Zoe here. There's no reason for B not to sabotage and board off. So 4 is a scavenger hunt. Mike and Zoe making out Vito per episode. And I think Courtney wouldn't get captured because Zoe's not there. So Brooke would never turn back to save her, so she was never arguing with Joe. So Dawn and Lightning get caught together. And I think because with their team, Courtney would realise that Joe was very bossy and could be quite threatening. So I feel like she would talk to Brick about this, and her and Brick get on pretty well. And I think what would happen is Joe would tell Brick to win the challenge, and because nobody gets captured in this team, there's no reason for the Maggots not to lose. So Scott gets Sam and Lightning out for Dawn. However, this is the episode where Dawn swaps teams. Episode 5. This is the who you can trust the shooting challenge. So basically, Scott and Sam. Scott wouldn't sabotage his episode because he needs a team. I think Scott would basically Lightning and Scott, Joe and Brick. So I think Scott wins the challenge. Dawn would get on with Mike and Cameron pretty well, and Mike won't tell Amaria about those personalities. Dawn would say to Mike the parts on Amaria that is Mike love her, and I think basically Scott would still sabotage his team. The Rats elimination, and Scott gets rid of Lightning because he's too much of a threat. And if the tiebreaker, Scott's going to get eliminated. Episode 6, model. I have one deciding factor who wins the challenge, and that's Dawn, because she can just talk to the Yeti. So Dawn could just talk to the Yeti, so I do think Dawn would win the challenge for her team. And Sam is just the tiebreaker. Scott and Joe swap teams, and that's it. Episode 7, Scott's still stealing the items around this point. Mike and Maria are very close. And basically, I think Cameron, Brick, basically here, I think Scott will still sabotage his team, Manitoba still come out. Joe will travel a lot faster by herself without Lightning. Brick would be afraid of the dark and Courtney's company here. I think Scott would build an attraction to Courtney as well. Obviously, Brick is a threat, so I feel like what would happen is the Rats, Joe would win by herself because no reason to save Brick on their team now, so he would go back to save them. So I think this is where Scott does his item play on Dawn. So basically, Scott uses his items and tells Dawn what's that under her pillow. Dawn would deny him, Brick would call her a thief. Everyone votes her off. I actually messed up on my theory for Courtney and Zoe swapping seasons because I realised as I made the video I actually had Ambria quit, and she only quit because Ezekiel was feral and gave her the diamond. So I'm remaking this part because I realised I messed up and I thought it would be unfair for this theory. I will cut the original theories, that's why the theory was a bit different to the actual video I did, is because I messed up here. So episode 7, Scott will still build an attraction to Zoe. Mike and Amaria like each other, and Cameron, they're like a trio. Mike would turn to Vito and then Manitoba at this point in the challenge. Brick is still afraid of the dark and Dawn's trying to comfort him. Joe by herself would win this challenge, considering the fact that her, Lightning, and Brick were able to win. And Brick would turn around to save the Maggots. However, because there's no Ezekiel, Amaria would never be captured, and this means that she would never leave the team. And Scott would still throw the challenge, meaning that Joe wins. And this is where Scott would do his item play on Dawn. So Scott would put the items under Dawn's pillow and ask, what's that under Dawn's pillow? Dawn would deny this, and she would try to convince people. The only person on Dawn's side may be Amaria and Mike,
but the other four are definitely voting for Dawn here. And because Anne-Marie never quits, Dakota never comes back as a player. Episode 8 is important because Dakota, Anne-Marie never quits, Dakota never comes back as a player. And this is important because Mike wants to tell Anne-Marie about both personalities. And Scott would still be, and I think Dakota would be searching for her. Dakota's going to be searching for her. Going to be searching for Sam as an individual rather than as a group. However, because the maggot, Scott will be misleading his team, and the maggot's actually around the bush, compared to Joe as the 5-foot wearing job and won't have to wait for anyone. I do think Joe would win the challenge. Meaning, everyone votes for Scott. Scott and Courtney would be in an alliance because they would realize that these Golden Three would be quite threatening. However, Scott has the immunity out at this point. This is the vote where Cameron actually reveals the votes. Mike has multiple personalities, so he wouldn't vote for Mike. He wouldn't vote for Anne-Marie either because he'd be trying to get her on his side. So the only person he could vote for is Brick. Because Brick is the biggest threat, he decides to vote Brick off. And Dakota Zoe still gets sent to the cannon with Sam. And we are at the merge. So I have to explain that. Unfortunately, Brick does not get to the merge. Episode 9, Mike wants to tell Anne-Marie about Scott's personalities, and Scott's still blackmailing him for the entire episode. Joe wouldn't make an alliance with anyone because she's by herself, and Courtney and Scott are already working together. So Joe just gets caught in the cage by herself. Scott still wins the challenge, and Mike wants to tell Anne-Marie about Scott's personalities. Because Scott can't blackmail him for something he's not keeping a secret, he's getting rid of Mike. Which means Mike's personalities are also out as well. Mike tells Anne-Marie, and she says it's fine, doll, and she actually really glad that Mike told her. Apologizes for putting pressure on her, but with the veto personality. Mike says it's cool, but he's glad that they go after the show, and Anne-Marie says sure. Episode 10. Anne-Marie replaces Lightning. Courtney. So the only people that were here were Cameron, Scott, and Joe. Cameron gets hot air balloon. Joe gets hot air balloon. Cameron gets the helicopter. Scott gets the plane, bird. Anne-Marie gets the plane, and Courtney gets the helicopter. Courtney and Scott make an alliance to try and get rid of Cameron and Anne-Marie. However, because Lightning isn't here, Cameron wouldn't really stand up for himself in this situation. However, I think Anne-Marie could convince him to sabotage Joe, as they don't like her. So, Scott doesn't win the challenge, and Cameron crashed through the window in the original because he sabotaged Joe, which would still happen. So between Courtney and Anne-Marie would lose. So between Cameron and Courtney, I'm going to say that Courtney would win immunity. So these two vote for Joe, but Joe and Scott realize that Joe is a massive threat going forward, but they would realize that Cameron and Anne-Marie are more of a threat. And I think they vote for Joe because there's no reason for Joe not to get eliminated like the original as a result. Episode 11, Eat, Puke, and Be Wary. Scott would still win after sabotaging everyone else. The race to the end, I think Courtney would immunity because Courtney's practiced attitude and we saw she's quite agile and quite fast. So I think Courtney would win I now think Courtney would win immunity. So Anne-Marie and Cameron vote for Scott, and Scott and Courtney realizing that Scott would have to face someone in a tiebreaker. Courtney would ask him who he'd want to face in a tiebreaker. And he chooses Cameron because Cameron's the easiest to beat out of the two in this tiebreaker. So in this Cameron and Scott tiebreaker, Scott's able to beat Cameron in the tiebreaker, so Cameron's eliminated. Episode 12, this is the Animal Plant Challenge. Two of the outsiders are very close, with one being an outsider. However, Anne-Marie is not a power side Lightning, so it could go either way. So I do think that between Courtney, Scott, and Anne-Marie, Courtney wins the challenge. And she's obviously not because he'd be an easy opponent to beat and they like each other. They got me out at this point because obviously Cameron would never kiss Courtney, so they would be going out at this point. So third place, Anne-Marie. So Scott and Courtney are the finalists, they each get winning endings. And I think Courtney would actually win, even though Scott's my favorite Revenge Down character, is one of my favorite characters. in total drama, I think it would be ironic that Courtney wins the season. Because I think Scott kind of wins because he'd probably be the less of the... I mean, Courtney's the less of the two evils, so that's it. This video, I think after watching this thing, we should season would have gone. If if Courtney and Zoey, a complete timeline, and peace farewell.